Luthen Rael once left the Empire because of the horrors they committed, but by the end he wasn't all that different.
Blush and lose, make it stop.
Throughout Andor, we saw a rebel leader who stopped caring about the cost as long as the cause moved forward. And in one of the show's final reveals, he may have sacrificed more than he ever intended. This wasn't just strategy, it was a brutal kind of logic, the same kind the Empire used.
It will burn. Very brightly.
And when the good guys start fighting like the bad guys, what's actually left of the line between them? Today we're looking back at Luthen's darkest move and how a man who set out to fight the Empire may have ended up becoming the very thing he swore to destroy.
Most people look away, we can't be like that.
Before we jump in, don't forget to leave a thumbs up on today's video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you want to catch more Star Wars coverage just like this, then you're in the right place. Now, with all that out of the way, let's dive into it.
Look at me.
Alright, so Luthen Rael wasn't just shaped by the Empire, you could say he was forged in its fire. The flashbacks in Andor didn't just give us background because that's what a lot of fans wanted, they were a reveal in themselves, showing us where Luthen came from, what he ran from, and most importantly, the complicated bond he formed with someone who should have hated him. Before he was the rebellion's shadow mastermind, Luthen served in the early Imperial military. And on one of his missions, he was part of what sounded like a full-scale genocide, the target, Clea's homeworld, the same Clea we've come to know as his most trusted ally. During the operation, he found her stowed away on his ship. Just a scared kid with nowhere to go. Maybe it was guilt, maybe something deeper, but he didn't turn her in. Instead, he took her in. So yeah, they survived by smuggling and selling antiquities, eventually landing on Coruscant and building that famous gallery we first saw in Season 1. It was a front, sure, but also a home built on shared trauma. Luthen would sometimes call her his daughter when it suited the mission.
I'm Luthen now, you're Clea. Everything else is up for grabs.
But over time, it became something more. Not quite father and daughter in name, but close enough in spirit. Love, loyalty, unspoken pain, and just beneath it all, resentment. Because over time, no matter how close they got, Clea never forgot what Luthen did, what the Empire did. Her family, her people, were all gone, and if she followed him into the fire, she was always walking beside the man who lit the match. Which raises the question, can a relationship built on survival ever truly outrun the past? So yeah, this wasn't just backstory, it was the foundation for understanding who Luthen became. He didn't just oppose the Empire, he was the Empire, once. And even in the rebellion, he carried some of those tactics with him, the same cold logic, the same brutal efficiency, only this time, it wasn't for Palpatine, it was for a cause he believed in. But does that make the cost any less? Now, if Luthen's past showed us how he was forged by the Empire, then his actions in the present showed us just how much of that fire he carried with him. The terrifying thing is, he didn't just learn from the Empire, he started using their playbook. The Empire never cared who got caught in the crossfire as long as the mission succeeded. If their version of order was preserved, then any collateral damage was justified, and somewhere along the way, Luthen started thinking the same way. Take Aldhani, yeah, it was a big win for the rebellion, but it came at a brutal cost. Several members of his own team didn't make it out, and he knew that was a risk, but that was just the start. The Empire then responded by punishing the Dani people, rounding them all up for questioning whether they were involved in the eye ceremony or not. And after that, we hear nothing. Their story just drops off the map. But in the finale, Vel and Cassian raise a toast to them among the list of the dead.
The Danis.
Aldhani.
So even if we never saw it, the implication's clear. They were collateral, people whose only mistake was being from the wrong planet at the wrong time. And for Luthen, they were never really part of the plan, just more necessary losses. And then there's PORD, the policy born out of the Aldhani heist, which turned the galaxy into a prison complex almost overnight. Cassian was arrested for simply walking to the store, 6 years for nothing, and inside Narkina 5, the prisoners weren't just doing time, they were brought in for cheap labour building parts for the Death Star. And the most chilling part, Narkina 5 were the lucky ones. What about all the other Narkinas out there in the galaxy? They didn't have a Cassian or a Kino Loy to lead them. And yeah, even Mon Mothma began to question it, whether the Empire was genuinely trying to stop crime, or were they the ones creating it?
Are we finding criminals or making them?
And all of that, it spiraled out from Luthen's decision to hit Aldhani. He lit the match, and the system devoured whoever was standing too close. But here's the question that really sticks. If the ends justified the means, how many people was Luthen willing to burn along the way? But yeah, there was one moment in Andor Season 2 that showed us just how far Luthen was willing to go. One that slipped under the radar for most people, that Naboo flashback. On the surface, it looked like a scene about Clea proving herself, her test, but it was so much more than that, because the planet Luthen bombed, that wasn't random, that was Naboo. Palpatine's homeworld, and according to one of the writers of the show, Luthen didn't just stumble onto it, he chose it, deliberately. It was personal, it was symbolic. But it was also a warning. Luthen knew exactly where Palpatine came from, and here's where it gets dark. Naboo wasn't just some Imperial propaganda relic, it was a place with real people, real resistance. At the time, the Queen was secretly offering refuge to Jedi survivors, and the Hidden Path may have been operating through there too. And that same year Luthen bombed the planet, the Queen was executed. The Empire cracked down on it hard, so the question becomes, did Luthen's statement draw too much attention? Did he make it easier for the Empire to find them? If there were Jedi hiding there or underground networks trying to survive, Luthen didn't just send a message to the Empire, he might have signed their death warrants.
We'll be leaving now. We made our choice.
And this is where the whole thing starts to twist. Because if you're out there bombing Palpatine's homeworld to prove a point, but potentially taking out a Jedi safe haven in the process, who are you really helping here? Now this is where the mask really begins to come off, because for all the talk of strategy, sacrifice and rebellion, Luthen wasn't fighting clean. He may have traded a uniform for a gallery and a cause, but his tactics, they were ripped straight from the same manual. Fear as motivation, loss as leverage, collateral damage as a perfectly acceptable strategy. The only difference was who he claimed to be doing it for, and the boot, that was the clearest proof. A world full of hope secretly harbouring the Jedi, a noble queen standing up against the Empire. The Hidden Path likely operating through there at the same time, hidden in the shadows, and what does Luthen do? He turns it into a target, drops a bomb, not just to destroy it, but to send a message.
It will burn. Very brightly.
It didn't matter who got caught in the blast. The Queen was actually executed in that same year and a new puppet ruler was installed, and the Gungans, they were subjected to a near-on genocide under the new Queen. And yeah, for all this, Palpatine didn't really care, Naboo meant nothing to him. But the people did, early rebels did, and when Luthen made his move, it wasn't just about the Empire. It was about showing the rest of the galaxy that the rebellion he was building was willing to fight just as hard, just as ruthlessly if that's what it took to win. But did it have to come at such a cost? That's the part that stings, because in doing it, he planted a signal. He pulled Kleya fully into the cause, he likely gave hope to others still in hiding, and it worked. That one act, that darkest move, it set off a chain. Kleya helps deliver the Death Star message.
It's a weapon. Okay, they're building a weapon, a super weapon.
That message leads to stealing the plans, and eventually Luke blows the whole thing up. So yeah, Luthen may have lit the fire that eventually ended the Empire, but how many people had to fall for that future to even be possible? And was the price of victory ever really his to pay? Anyways, now that we've seen the lengths Luthen's willing to go to, the cruelty, the sacrifice, the calculated destruction, we're left with a harder question. Is this what the rebellion had to look like? Because for everything he did, Luthen should be respected. He made the calls no one else could. He bore the burden in silence so the faces of the rebellion could stay clean.
They're gonna find you, Luthen.
You act as if we had a choice.
He lived in the shadows, so leaders like Mon Mothma and Bail Organa could stand in the light. And yeah, maybe some people did have to fall for the many to be saved. Without his network, without his intelligence, the rebellion might have never gotten off the ground. There'd be no stolen plans, no Death Star explosion, no Luke Skywalker flying into legend. Luthen gave everything, his soul, his legacy, gone, just so others could live. But at the same time, what kind of rebellion are you building when you start with that much blood? Can you win fighting like the very people you hate? Sure. But what does that victory look like once you get there? And if someone has to become a monster so the rest of us could be heroes, should they be celebrated or forgotten?
It's insulting to hear him run down.
It's the hardest truth buried in Andor because Luthen didn't just make the hard choices. He became the reason those choices were even on the table in the first place. And maybe that's the cost of real change. Maybe that's what it takes to bring down something as vast and as cruel as the Empire. But even now, with the benefit of hindsight, it's fair to ask, did he go too far? So yeah, Luthen Rael is one of the most compelling characters Star Wars has ever given us because he's so hard to define. He's not a Jedi, he's not a Sith, he's not even a traditional rebel. He's something messier, something scarier in many ways, something real. He fought for freedom, but he used the tools of oppression to do it. He was willing to sacrifice everything except the mission. And yeah, in the end, the galaxy was saved, the Death Star destroyed, the rebellion became the Republic. But what did it really cost him? Luthen lit the fuse. And when the explosion came, he was already gone, burned up in the very fire he helped create. Which kind of makes you wonder, in a galaxy full of heroes, what do we do with the ones who've made heroism possible, but didn't live long enough to be remembered for it? Anyways, those are just my thoughts. I'd love to hear yours. Do you think Luthen went too far, or was he exactly what the rebellion needed? As always, drop your thoughts, theories, and wilder speculation down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out our Rogue One breakdown through the lens of Andor. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming ones. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one, and may the Force be with you.